Welcome to Season 2 of the Pints and Perspectives podcast hosted by WellHouse Church. This show understands that there is quite a bit of diversity amongst the body of Christ. So we operate according to the motto that certain things are fixed, like the essentials of faith, and the best beer is served on tap, while everything else is just a matter of perspective.
What's going on, beer lovers? We are back with a new episode, and as you saw last time, we gratefully said bye to Clayton.
Bye, Clayton.
And we now say hello to a dear, dear friend.
Hello.
My best friend and long time best friend, Adam Chaney. Welcome to the podcast.
This is not my first time on the podcast, though.
It is true, but now you are the
co-host?
Cemented co-host.
Cemented?
Well, because Clayton said bye. Yeah, you are the new regular voice.
Clayton, thank you for this chair. It's warm still from where your body used to be. I don't know how I'll ever fill your shoes.
Attaboy. No, Clayton was great. And when we started this podcast, the way that I envisioned it, because we got so many listeners, but what this podcast was originally designed to be was me, the pastor of WellHouse Church, being able to give theological voice to those in the congregation that cared.
Sure.
And so Clayton was a great side voice because he could be the voice of the audience.
Sure.
He could ask questions. He could give rebuttals. He was a fantastic voice. Now it's just at a place where I felt like this podcast could really benefit from two theological voices having some other conversations, because it was beginning to get to a point where it was like repetitive loops.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I was about to, it was just at a point where it was like, okay, this will benefit a lot from another trained theologian in the other chair, which I'm like, I happen to have my best friend be one of those things. And what better thing to do than have both of us on camera drinking and talking theology?
Two white guys talking theology.
It's true.
I just want to say that I told Cullen that I'm not the best candidate for this, but Cullen, I used to have a podcast. And it was fun, and I loved it. And I miss it so much. And so Cullen was like, look, I'm firing Clayton. I'm kidding. He didn't fire Clayton. Clayton, we love you. I do know Clayton. But he said, hey, how would you like to do this? And I'm like, I would love to podcast again. What do you want to talk about? I don't care. Let's talk about it. And I just appreciate that you consider me a trained theologian, because I feel like you have far surpassed me in that field these days. But
go ahead, give your accolades. You're no slouch to the table.
That's true. I do hold 2 degrees in theology. My undergraduate degree is also from Houston Baptist University, where you went, and did a theology emphasis there, and loved it. Graduated at the top of my class with honors. Won that President's Award. There was a brick on campus there with my name on it, which I don't know, maybe that's not cool. And then I went off to Baylor University and got a master's degree, an MDiv, Master's of Divinity. So I am technically, by law, Master of the Divine. Thank you. And I have the paper to prove it.
Not by law, though.
Hey, come for me.
By accreditation.
Come for me.
Of a bunch of white people.
Try me. So I did a theology degree there as well. I did an MDiv, right, which is a practical degree, but my emphasis was theology and world Christian witness. And graduated at the top of that class too. I won the theology award. It was my world that I was swimming in. And while I did those 4 years at Baylor, I was also the senior pastor of a church. So I had a practical way to flesh out and process out and then teach the theology that I was learning in real time. And spent 8 years pastoring, 8.5 years pastoring. Worked in Christian nonprofits for 10 years. Those were at the same time. I'm not 50. And so have an extensive history in church life, in parachurch life, have written hundreds, tens of thousands of pages on theology, have read all of these books too. Most of them. I don't know. You probably got new stuff on here that I haven't read. Look, Larry Hurtado. R.I.P., right? Did Larry die? I don't know.
Yes, R.I.P. A large portion of his library is now at Lanier.
Oh, there you go. So, I know who these people are. I know these things. So I don't know. What else do you want me to say?
Yeah. Now I want to, as they know you, we've met we've known each other for 8-9 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Almost instantaneous best friends. It was
Yeah.
like meeting versions of each other.
Cullen was the new kid in class, and I took a liking to him.
It is true. That is actually how
That's
it
what
was.
happened.
He just didn't realize that I would bless his life as much as
It's true.
He
It's-
thought he was doing a handout, and he didn't realize it.
No,
was
he's
dope.
handing out
I
the
was matching energies.
So true. 2 peas, 1 pod.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, 2 peas, 1 pod. New name.
Okay. All right. So now, Adam, tell us
I'm
about
funnier than Clayton.
You are.
Sorry,
You're
I
a
love
different
you,
kind of funny
I love
than
you,
Clayton.
I love you, Clayton.
You're a different kind of funny than Clayton. Okay. Tell us about your history with beer. Why should we listen to what you have to say about beer?
Yeah. First time I can remember drinking beer, I was 9 years old, and I drank it out of what I thought was a water bottle, and it was my mom sneaking beer. I hope she never listens to this. She's going to kill me for telling that story. It was just a sip, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Sorry, that's probably not the history of beer that you were looking for.
Not exactly.
The one time I got drunk on beer was in a city park. I was a freshman in high school. The first time I got drunk.
And
Anyways.
what kind of beer was that?
Oh, Bud Light.
Okay.
A case
Great
worth.
Great story.
We'd had hot wings before. It was a terrible evening. Told my mother I'd been food poisoned at the Wings and More. I don't know if she bought it or not. Maybe. Anyways. Okay. So no, when I turned 21, I had this friend. His name's Ben Chambers. He is still one of my nearest and dearest friends.
I've met Ben.
Yeah,
Ben's great.
that's right. Yeah, he lives in California, so we don't get to see each other very often, but we do talk a lot. But he was a beer snob. He's still a beer snob, and he would call himself that. And so, yeah, man, we would just hang out a lot and talk theology and drink beer.
Yeah.
And so we had a little group of friends that would do that almost on a weekly basis for years. And so he kind of introduced me to Stone, this brewer that made this beer here. And I just got really deep into it for a long time, did a lot of brewery tours, went to California, did a bunch of brewery touring and stuff like that. And Colorado, I've done a bunch of brewery tours in Colorado and all sorts of places. I was really into it for a while. And so I don't drink beer that much anymore. My metabolism slowed down. It was making me a little large, and it was upsetting my GI system. TMI. But hello, Onyx. You want to be the third person on the podcast? And so what was I saying? Beer. Yeah. I have an extensive history with beer, but I don't drink it that much anymore. But, Houston has really turned into a serious beer scene in the past, like 5 to 8 years, something like that.
A lot of good Houston brews.
It's all over the place. And my neighborhood has 2 breweries that have popped up in the past couple of years. So maybe it's time to get back into beer.
Yeah, it's a great time to be into beer. Also, and you have a little bit of experience homebrewing.
I have homebrewed before with Ben Chambers, the same friend I've mentioned. Yeah, that was, I'll never do it again. It's a lot of work.
I have homebrewed. I would love to still homebrew. I now live in this apartment where we film this.
Yeah.
So I can't, but yes, I love
It's
brewing.
fun.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work.
Well, and the best part is like you get, when you finally get to drink what you made, that's,
Yep.
the reward of that is like nothing else. But
Yep. So, okay, now tell me about your beer that you're about to drink.
yeah, so this is, hello. Do you literally want to talk into this microphone, Onyx? This is a Stone Hazy IPA. Stone is a brewery in California. And it is 6.5% alcohol by volume, 12 fluid ounces in a can. I've had a ton of stuff from Stone. I've never had this beer though. So, flavor notes are tropical, citrus, juicy. Gotta love a juicy beer.
Yes, gotta love a juicy
Oh, I
beer.
see this made with 3 different types of hops. That's interesting. El Dorado hops, pretty famous hops. Azaka and Sabro. I've been out of the beer game for a while. I don't recognize those 2.
Well, we tried a beer, or I had a beer on this podcast from last week, and it was Flazaka hops, which I'd never
heard of it.
And I still have to do my research on
Flazaka.
it. So there's some new hop game going on in the same way that there's some new weird stuff popping up in cannabis. There's some weird new stuff popping up in
Waka
hops.
Flocka, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see what's up. I have a Scottish ale. So to be fair, Clayton and I bought these beers when he and I were doing this podcast.
Oh, Clayton, I also have your beer. Thank you.
Well, technically you have mine.
Oh.
And I have one of Clayton's. And then the next one you're going to drink is the other one of Clayton's.
Okay.
So, but this is a beer that Clayton picked and I got stuck with because I let Adam pick. It's a Scottish ale. It's from Galveston Bay Beer Company. Just in full fairness, we've said it time and time again on this podcast. Historically, I do not like the beers that come from Galveston. I don't think they're that good.
G-Town.
I love Galveston, but I don't think the beer's that great. So it's a Scottish ale, and it's going to be pretty sweet. The description it says on the can is, Bull Shark is a Scottish ale, also known as a wee heavy, brewed in the traditional fashion. A complex mix of malted barley along with a longer boil time give this animal a smooth, malty sweetness and rich color while remaining light in body.
Yeah.
A great beer that can be enjoyed any time of the year, and it's only 6.3% ABV.
Thank you for the permission to enjoy you any time of the year.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
I'm going to drink this beer whenever I want. You know what?
I guess so. Yeah. They give themselves a lot of privilege to grant somebody that
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. ASMR for y'all. The citrus is legit on this, no joke. It is very tropical. That's the first flavor they put on their flavor notes, and that is literally the thing that hits me in the face. Is it's like biting into a mango and then drinking Stone IPA. That's exactly what it tastes like.
That's why I picked that beer. Yeah,
that's exactly.
Okay. It's doing exactly what I thought it would.
Appreciate you. It's pretty good. It's anything from. I've never had a bad beer from Stone. I don't. It's almost too tropical for me. It almost covers up the hops on the finish, which is an IPA, so I kind of want that. But anyways.
Interesting. Okay, so typically on this show,
I didn't
the beer.
I didn't read the instructions.
No, we rate the beer. So you
Okay.
get a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh.
But autonomy to every person. You get to establish your own scale. But you need your baseline beer. So like, what's just like your good quality? Like, this is a good beer. What's that score?
Like
what's the reference point?
Yeah, so like a beer that I would think is good is a good drinking beer, not the best beer in the world, but like just
like a good quality. I'm happy if I have that beer.
That's a 7 for me.
A 7.
That's a 7 for me.
You're also allowed the decimals.
Oh no, come on, man, it's too complex.
Nah, man,
can I go to the 1,000th?
No, you get 1 decimal.
Okay,
one decimal.
No, like a 7, right? Because if I'm gonna spend money on it and I'm gonna take the time to drink it, it better be good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not settling. But I would put this probably, what's the ABV on this? It's probably pretty light, 6.7 alcohol by volume. This could be really great out at like the lake or on a beach or
outside on a sunny day.
Outside or it's 4:52 on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And you're getting ready for the next or you're already into the second set of games.
Yeah.
And so
so you're at the 3:00 game.
Exactly. Right. Probably forced to watch the Cowboys, unfortunately.
Golly.
So I go to the other, hopefully there's another afternoon game I can go watch. That's the time I'd be drinking it. So I'm gonna give it a 6. It a 6. It's not bad. It's a very good beer.
Okay. Got it. Mine, kudos to Galveston Bay because it's better than I thought it would be.
Okay.
It's not near as sweet. It's not like syrupy sweet like I expected it to be.
Yeah.
It has some malty body, which I like. It's still a little sweet for my flavor. So my like average litmus is 6.8.
Okay.
Like everything just starts at 6.8 and you go up or down from there.
Got it.
Scotch is like, this is just not my style of beer, so it's not going to get a great score from me, but it is better than I thought it would be. I'm going to do like 6.4.
Can you taste the alcohol on it? Not much, because it's 8%, right?
No, it's 6.3.
6.3. Oh, okay. Because some Scotch ales can be very hot, and I like that. I like the bite with the sweet. You know what I'm saying? But if it's a lower ABV, then it's just like basically malt And
exactly. If it has that higher bite with it,
Right.
I need more body to back it.
Right.
If not, it just ends up tasting awfully close to like a weird version of.
But you gave it a what? A 6 what?
A 6.4.
Okay, there it is.
I really try to keep everything from a 6 up.
Gotcha.
Like it.
Name a 1. Name a 1. What's a beer you'd give a 1 to?
Oh, we could go back in the logs. I don't remember exactly
there,
what it is. Yeah, Clayton keeps all the logs of all the beers we've tried on here. But there's a beer that. Oh, it's the Shiner.
Okay.
I love you.
Okay.
A guava fresca or whatever it is in the variety
That sounds
pack.
horrific, though.
It got a 0 from both of us.
It broke the scale.
From both of us. We were like, we will never drink it again. It's done.
So I'm new to the podcast. How do you handle burping into the microphone?
I mean, I would not do that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you want to.
We're looking out for you, audience.
I wouldn't do that, but
I just thought that was, you do the whoosh.
Well, this is not an ASMR podcast.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't read the instructions.
But, I mean, it's just crack the beer.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
For the people.
So technically this is a theology podcast, and I want the people to know, they know you got a good theological education.
I did.
They know that education is very similar. The supervisor of my master's thesis, well, actually, to be fair, I probably need to reintroduce myself because you're going to bring a new audience in.
Sure.
Doesn't know me either.
Because I'm so good looking.
Yeah, that's why, homeboy. So, I was actually a youngin' to the table. Adam is a few years older than me.
I was a non-traditional student. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's what I said. So anyways, I was a traditional student, and HBU had this program where you could get your undergraduate and an academic master's degree in 5 years.
Right.
I did that.
Right.
That time overlapped with Adam's upper level years in the theology program and some after.
Right.
During our time on campus, we shared the same mentor.
Yes.
We actually got awarded ethics awards together.
That's true. We are the Young TB Maston Scholars in Ethics 2013.
Yeah, 2013. No, 2014.
2014. That was my final year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the spring of 2014. Because we spent my 21st birthday
Where were
Abilene, Texas.
It was the worst.
It was the worst. We got done at like I turned 21 like at midnight or whatever, and there was like not a place open in Abilene. The whole town was
closed.
The entire town was closed. And then the next day we woke up and it was like Sunday. And the entire town was closed because it was Sunday.
That's right.
And so we couldn't get a drink until we got to Chili's on the outskirts of Houston.
And I'm like, all right, let's.
This is not cool anymore.
Let's get a Presidente real quick.
And you're exhausted because you just drove from freaking Abilene, Texas.
Oh man, yeah, and yeah, it was. What a weekend.
So yeah, I did that degree, and then Adam left and went up to Baylor. I have since followed Adam there, and I am graduating with a different degree than Adam.
Right.
I'm graduating with a Master's of Theological Studies. It's the academic. It's the same degree that Adam had without the practical stuff.
Right.
It's just the theology degrees.
Right.
Or the theology classes, and I'm graduating with that in December.
Right. Yep.
So that's our history. So they know that you went from like pretty conservative funding.
Yes.
Not necessarily in the classroom. It was a very good education.
Oh, without
at
a
HBU. And at Baylor, very good education.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also want them to know your voice as a person, theology, how you view the world, where you find yourself. Try to give yourself labels as much as I know that's hard.
Yeah, I mean,
let them know the perspective you're bringing to the podcast.
Yeah, so you've probably heard, or maybe you haven't. I don't want to assume on you, the audience, but there is often this like kind of what do you call it? Like a pithy kind of quibby statement. I forget. There's like a word for this. Anyways, where people will tell you, well, you can't go to seminary because it ends up just being a cemetery.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
What do you call it? There's like a word for that. Anyways, and so I always used to have that in the back of my head. They're like, oh, I had all these people in my life that would be like, well, if you go off and get that theological education, they're just going to make you fall out of love with Jesus. And if you go into that seminary, they're going to put these thoughts in your head, and you're not going to be able to love the Lord anymore, or whatever.
It's true. It's like a mantra.
I guess that happened because I was definitely radicalized in seminary.
I guess that's so true. But
so
that's a wild way to tell that story, Adam.
So I don't know. Go to seminary, but maybe don't. I do not regret 1 second of my time that I spent at Truro Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
That was one of the most valuable and important and formative 4 years of my entire life. I would not take that time back. I made incredible friends, and really more than anything, my theological education taught me how to think critically, to ask hard questions, to do qualitative research, and to wrestle with doubt, to wrestle with questions, but to be critical. Yeah. And I don't mean that in like a negative, sense that we use kind of just in our general vernacular, but I mean like critical research, critical analysis of text, critical analysis of ideas,
of policies,
of everything, right? And you in seminary you learn how to read a document, and you know how to analyze an argument, right? And you know how to formulate your own response to that critique or that analysis, right? And you learn how to do that in a succinct way, in an appointed way, and you know how to make your own argument. And so, somebody at some point in my life, some mentor told me, like graduate school is really just an endurance race. Like, can you do the hard work? Can you make it to the end of the line?
Yep.
Right. And I did, of course, but what occurred so this is the way I like to tell the story. Just for context, and I don't know the audience, so I hope we get to know each other and you like me and we become friends. But, and I'm not trying to get political here, but I am extremely political.
You're allowed to.
Great.
We are best friends. Do you not think my voice comes across this podcast?
Who knows what that person thinks and feels? But when I entered seminary was the fall of 2015. The first 2 years
at Baylor.
At Baylor.
To be fair, that when they hear seminary, I think they may think HBU.
Sure. When I went to Baylor, thank you.
When he went to grad school.
When I went off to grad school at Baylor, it was 2015, and it was my first 2 years in grad school was the run up to Donald Trump's election. So it was like the beginning of the campaign, like him coming down the escalator and calling everybody in Mexico like thieves and rapists. That was culturally, that was what was happening in the world around me and in the country around me, right? And at the same time, I was pastoring a small church, First Baptist Church of Riesel, Texas. Love them to death. But I'm a city boy.
Yeah.
Facts, right?
Yeah. No, Adam is definitely, I am not. I am country to my core.
Country to his core.
And I masquerade as a city boy. Adam is a city boy through and through, and masqueraded as a country boy for 4 years.
Correct. They saw straight through the mask. Farmers.
Yeah, but he was wearing
don't
boots.
Buy the shit.
He was trying to play the part.
Well, I'm from Texas. I get to wear boots.
That's true. Well, you're a person. You get to wear what you want.
Damn right. Sorry. Oh, I cut.
You're allowed to cut.
Sorry. So the beginning of my seminary experience was also watching the cultural bifurcation of our rural versus urban kind of communities, but also like the Republican Party was becoming increasingly Donald Trump centric, and lock up Hillary and like all this stuff, and there was this like centralizing of faith communities around Donald Trump.
Around the political game.
Yeah, and which isn't new, right? I mean, Reagan did that. Nixon had his own.
It's about the vote. It's about the power that comes with the church.
Well, and I just thought in those early days, I was just like, okay, this is like just another one of these situations, like evangelical Christians, because I was at the front of the room of the evangelical Christian world, right? I was on the way up. I was extremely involved in Texas Baptist life. I was on multiple committees. I was on the rise. I was a leadership scholar for CBF. I mean, I was in denominational life. Everybody but the SBC, they can kick a rock.
Attaboy.
So I was in, what they would call moderate Baptist life, right?
Yeah.
And very
Which
involved.
Is still just pretty conservative.
Yeah, they can also kick rocks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the timeline of that was happening. I was like, okay, this is my trajectory. These are my beliefs. But then, like, I start seeing all these people. So then Donald Trump gets elected, and the first 2 years of Donald Trump's presidency are the last 2 years of my graduate school. So here I am pastoring a church in rural Texas in a town of 1,000 people, primarily.
And how big? Okay, so this is big. So note, a church can only be 10% of its city's population. Statistically, that is how we do church analysis.
Yeah, right.
Riesel had a town of 1,000 people. How many people attended your church on a Sunday?
About 100.
There you go.
110.
Pastoring the largest church that his community can hold within a single building.
Yeah, we were rocking and rolling. We were definitely the biggest church in town. You want to take a guess on how many churches were in Riesel, Texas, a town of 1,000 people?
4.
7.
Of course.
7 churches.
Of course.
3 Baptist churches. 2 Methodist churches. Anyways.
All 3 of those split offs of one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ours, First Baptist Church.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
1 charismatic church.
It's always about power.
1 Catholic church. This is how it went. Lutheran church. Anyways. And so then Donald Trump gets elected and he becomes president, and all this stuff is happening that I think is really, really terrible. And every one of the faith leaders and mentors in my life. So as this is occurring, as Donald Trump is like solidifying the evangelical base of the country, I'm wrestling with, some of the people on this shelf, right? I'm trying to pick out a good one, right?
You also have theology is on the very bottom, but you also have New Testament. This is all Jesus. That's all Paul.
But like I'm wrestling with like narrative, hermeneutics and like just different. And I get exposed to liberation theology. I get exposed to.
So you got like James Cone,
J. Diotis Roberts, Gustavo Gutierrez, Major Jones, and then I start reading
The Color of God. Is
Wendell
one of the
Berry.
best
Yeah,
books.
exactly. Color of God. Then I start reading Wendell Berry, and I start reading. Just a wider Leonardo Boff, a Brazilian liberation theologian. Like I start reading widely, and I start reading different theological systems. I start reading, womanist theology. I start reading Native American theology. I start reading, this is what seminary.
Widely.
This is what seminary does.
Or allows you to do.
But I intentionally pressed into it. And I was also one of my most important mentors in my entire life is a man named Mike Stroop, who still teaches at Truth Theological Seminary. He exposed me to the world of Christian witness, and we read people from all over the world. And so here I am wrestling with what I personally believe, digesting these different theological perspectives from people who aren't straight white Americans, straight white male Americans, and like my vision, my perspective, my theological perspective is like broadening. My love of the person of Jesus is increasing as I wrestle with how Jesus is perceived in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Eastern Europe, in South America, Latin America. And at the same time, I'm watching most of the faith leaders in my life that have formed me and raised me basically reject all of that. And I'm trying to use my words carefully, but like join a Trump cult.
Yeah.
And then tell me that I'm like being indoctrinated by demons. And I'm like, no, I'm reading Major Jones.
Yeah.
No, I'm working with professors who are at the top of their field and analyzing documents written by these other people who just aren't Americans.
Yeah.
And that really created this like seismic shift in my own personal faith. Because I'm also standing up in front of a church every week, taking all of this in, digesting this theology, digesting this cultural moment, and then having to put those two things together in front of a congregation full of like farmers.
And spending lots of time in prayer about how to join that bridge and not seeing a way forward.
And not get fired in the process.
Yeah. Because
Right?
your livelihood depends on this. Literally, your entire life was beholden to the church.
Education, income, housing, all of it.
Everything. Beholden to the evangelical church.
The system. I was deep in the system and they held all the keys for me. And that created severe anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And not good things. So it was not sustainable. So after 4 years of that, I graduated and I resigned as a pastor and never went back. And that just kind of sparked off. I think what I would say now, also, I would just like to I would like to add a disclaimer right here in the middle of this podcast. Anything I say on this podcast that I believe might change by the next podcast.
Oh, they know that because that's my thing too.
Okay, great. So, because like faith is just ever evolving in my mind, right?
Yeah,
and
it's
so
a holistic journey.
I think where I am today. So, anyways, that just like unraveled me, and I have been. I don't know how we feel about the whole term and movement, but I've been deconstructing since seminary, since being at Baylor. Really, I think I started deconstructing when I started formal theological education, even back at HBU, because I had to throw off all these like little things that I learned in Sunday school and actually wrestle with the text, right?
Yeah.
Wrestle with the theological systems. And so I think where I would say I am today, now, I would describe myself as a Christian atheist. Jesus is still like very central in my life. He is the life and words of Jesus, example of Jesus, the ethic of Jesus is still very central. It's like my North Star in terms of my own personal morality and ethics and worldview, especially in the way that I relate with other human beings and with the planet, the creative, creation. But I just don't know if I believe in some distant higher deity who is all powerful, all knowing, and all present.
Okay, so audience, listeners, what you should hear.
Stone this man!
No, what you should hear is he has the same qualms that the rest of us do. It's the three omnis. Your qualm's not with God, it's the omnis of God.
My main problem is the problem of evil.
Which is because of the omnis.
Because of the omnis, yes, but yeah.
You will fit in fine here.
Yeah.
You will fit in fine here.
I would hate for you to fire me and bring back Clayton.
No.
Not going to happen, Clayton. I'm drinking your beer.
Okay, so last question I have for you, and you have to answer it pretty quickly because we're already over time. But
okay, sorry. I'm long-winded.
It's okay. I often hear you say, I'm probably a Pelagian.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of the listeners will know some version of what that term means.
Yeah.
I want them to know what you mean by that, because I hear you say that quite often in theological conversations.
Yeah.
And so I want them to know what you mean by that.
Well, so I maybe not Pelagian formally, but like moral influence theory, right? Is an atonement theory. Like, what is the efficacy of Jesus Christ's sacrifice? What and how does the atonement model, the theological atonement model, work for his sacrifice? And so, okay, I'm not going to do all atonement theory. So I was about to like do the whole thing.
No, you don't have to.
So I think. So I just said a second ago, right? Jesus still remains this very central figure for me. And I think that is by way of example.
But you're taking a very moral exemplar atonement theory and view of Jesus.
Yeah, like he challenged his example, his influence, his example influences my morality. So I don't think I would be a Pelagian in the sense that I don't think that's necessarily eternally salvific for me in a way that it's like, because I think Pelagius would still say that is actually the salvific work of Jesus is that moral influence. And when you're impacted by that moral influence and you take it up and you align with it, then that is salvation.
Yeah, well, the deal is the reason that Pelagius was condemned as a heretic is because he had this great metaphor. And it is a beautiful metaphor, but I also understand why they deemed it heretical. But the metaphor is that we are like a bird, and sin is like a rock tied to the bird.
Yeah.
And so when you tie it, it weighs you down, and the bird can't fly away right away.
Right.
But under enough time of the bird getting the proper nutrients and working, that bird can fly away, meaning that sin itself does not adhere a human from salvation attainment on their own.
Yeah.
There's no, in Pelagian's view, there's no need for Jesus other than example, which the church would say historically that is very problematic.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't believe in sin.
Yes, you do. You absolutely believe in sin.
Maybe
do you think Adolf Hitler was a sinner? You think the Holocaust was sin?
I think we have to define sin.
Okay, yeah.
Another
what's
episode,
sin?
perhaps another episode. I mean, I'll do it. You're in charge here, not me. But that's what I mean by like traditional Pelagianism. There are some parts of it that even I don't like hold on to. What I really mean, to answer your question directly, what I really mean by that is there is this moral exemplar, moral influence.
He's just your case study name for the moral influence atonement theory.
Yeah, and I do it a little bit to be incendiary around theological people who understand what Pelagianism is and know that it's a heresy and know how it relates with Augustinian theology, and so I do it to
he does it just to stir the damn pot.
Damn right, it's fun. Watch him react. Look at him react. He made me talk about it.
I know, it's so funny. Now we are about to start. As soon as we stop recording this one, we're going to film another episode. For our new series, which I'm affectionately titled Paradise, Purgatory, and Punishment?
We're going to offer PPP loans.
That's right. So with that, it's going to be afterlife theology, and we are going to talk about hell and purgatory and sin.
I'm excited.
And so we will save that question. That is how we will start the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Great beer.
Thanks for listening to the Pints and Perspectives podcast hosted by WellHouse Church. Be sure to give us a rating and a review if you enjoyed the episode. It's free and it helps us immensely. Also, feel free to check out our other podcasts.